Emma went away to little bit worse than you did the last time we were here. Well, that's good.
Oh, hi. How are you? Yeah. Yes, I was talking to you, really?
Sorry,
All good.
I need these.
It's fair.
You know, how are you gonna have the librarian look without them?
I didn't know that's what you were
Right?
going for.
I don't know.
You
I
know-
don't wear glasses.
All right. Welcome to the July 17th, 2023 regular meeting of the Lyman Board of Selectmen. This meeting is a public proceeding and is being recorded. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Can you guys see that through that whiteboard, the flags?
That's Tom's pet peeve. I think he's
Oh no, I agree with Tom on something else.
working on that one too. It aggravates him.
That's good.
Yeah, 'cause we don't have a state flag either.
All right, let's start off with, do we have any special offers? I don't think so. We'll jump into item 2, public input. The public in attendance will have up to 5 minutes to address the board. Please use the podium up front if you'd like to address.
Good evening, Joe Wagner, 26 Day Road. Links to the video recordings of board and committee meetings are now on the town website next to agenda and minutes. And thanks to Michelle Felicetti for that. One note though, audio comments from the audience are still a bit hard to hear. So maybe please direct folks to come up to the mic when they have something that they want to share with the board. And also, would it be possible in some way to include Ms. Gagne in the video here, maybe a split screen? I don't know exactly how that would work, because her comments kind of come from the side. And it's like a voice from beyond and not necessarily identifiable. So if that could be adjusted, that'd be great. Thanks to Parks and Rec for the Music in the Park series on Thursday evenings. Caught the Dapper Gents last week. Never thought what a cello hooked up to a wah-wah pedal would sound like. Mystical. It was really neat. They got the group Suave coming in there this Thursday at 6:30 by the library. Again, thank you, Parks and Rec. Thank you to the transfer station personnel. As I was there recently, one of our neighbors said they're there in the heat of the summer, the cold of the winter. They put up with unpleasant aromas and sometimes unpleasant patrons. As that neighbor said, they're well deserving of the recent raises they received in compensation, and they're even more deserving of our respect. Now, at the last meeting, there's some mention of the policy regarding petition signatures, solicitation at the transfer station. And Randy Murray gave me a copy of a policy that was put into place November 7th of 2019. I've got spare copies here. I could distribute that in just a little bit. Transfer manager designates the area for petitioners to be located. Petitioners shall not impede residents' ability to use the facility, and petitioners shall not in any way interfere with the safety of residents, employees, or themselves. And that's what we have been abiding by. Randy places us right next to the swap shop. There's plenty of apron there for people to pull over if they wish.
Cool.
And a lot of people stop at the swap shop. As my late great next door neighbor Bill Darling said, you really know that you are a Yankee when you come back with more stuff from the transfer station than you have
Absolutely.
brought over. All right. Now on tonight's agenda, there's a proposal for screening applications submitted by volunteers for board positions. Now, before making a decision on the proposal, I asked the select board to first consult the bylaws of existing committees. I found the Ordinance Review Committee bylaws and the bylaws of the Planning Board online. For the Ordinance Review Committee, Section 3, membership reads, the committee shall consist of at least 5 members, all of whom shall be residents of the town of Lyman and of the age of 18. These members are voluntary and shall serve a 3-year staggered term without pay after being selected by the select board, appointed by the select board, from time to time as required by the volume of work assigned to the committee, It may be temporarily expanded to facilitate completion of assigned tasks, such as rewriting the ordinance, resulting in the implementation of the new comprehensive plan. Such additional members shall serve only so long as required by the workload. Now, presently, there are 7 members on the Ordinance Review Committee. I understand that the board will be entertaining possibly putting a few more folks on there. One thing I think may have been communicated to, I think, Jessica, you're the liaison for
Yes.
ORC,
Mhm.
that at the last meeting, they were mentioning they've got 7 right now. If they expand to 9 and all are voting members, you now have a situation where to constitute a quorum, you go from 4 to 5.
Mhm.
So maybe you might want to consider what we do on the planning board, that's have alternates. They could fill in as needed.
Yep.
And you don't have the higher threshold necessary to conduct business. All right. And in terms of their workload, they are tackling the entirety of the shoreland zoning ordinance and the ordinance and the land ordinance as well. For planning board, Article 2 of our bylaws reads, appointments to the board are to be made by municipal officers after a recommendation from the board in accordance with the Town of Lyman Municipal Charter. That's what I was referring to before in the last meeting, that there'll be some consultation, discussion, conversation with the applicants, and then a recommendation will be sent to the select board for the ultimate decision as to whether or not the person would be selected. Now, from what I saw in the packet tonight, the proposals in the information packet places the entire burden of screening volunteers on the town manager, who may not be a town resident. This seems to be, again, overloading one person with too many responsibilities. Now, in the new charter, 512 asserts that the select board has the authority to approve appointments to non-elected boards and committees. That same section conveys to the town manager the responsibility to make those appointments official. It doesn't necessarily say, that passage, that the town manager has explicit and sole gatekeeper responsibility for who may volunteer for the town. And also something that was in discussion last meeting with regard to terms coming up. 511 in the new charter reads, applications shall be solicited from residents and current members of boards seeking appointment or reappointment. And that clearly indicates a responsibility to notify current members when their terms are set to expire and to communicate the process of reapplication. Now, finally, I see on tonight's agenda the position of registrar. I understand the board will be following directives laid out in state law, and that's 21A, Section 101. There are some particularly pertinent sections there. Section 4, the clerk shall notify the Secretary of State of the name of the registrar within 10 days after the registrar is appointed and sworn in. As for Section 8, vacancy, when there is a vacancy in the office of registrar, the municipal officers shall appoint a qualified person to fill the vacancy for the remainder of the term. That's a 2-year term. If the municipal officers fail to appoint a registrar to fill that vacancy within 15 days after the municipal officers receive notification of the vacancy, the municipal clerk shall appoint a qualified person to fill the vacancy for the remainder of the term. I believe Ms. Harrison tendered her resignation on the 3rd of this month. 15 days sets it out to tomorrow, the 18th. So
We haven't voted on that yet.
in terms of acceptance, granted. But it says here by notification, not based on acceptance. So I think you're working on a 7/18 deadline there. Let's see. Section 9. The registrar shall attend a training session that is approved by the Secretary of State at least once every 2 years in regard to the conduct of voter registration. Now, my understanding is that sometime this fall, dates to be determined, the Secretary of State's office will be conducting town clerk and registrar training sessions. And the person to contact for that is the Deputy Secretary of State, Julie Flynn, at 624-7736. And I would suggest that that training be provided before the next scheduled municipal election. Thank you very much.
It's true.
Anybody else? All right, no one else got anything? Let's move on. We'll move on to mail. There is it's a really interesting read. I don't know if you guys have seen this in the packet. It's the call breakdown for the dispatch of the sheriff's department. And it's pretty interesting read. It's pretty long though. Moving on, we have more mail. I don't, unless it didn't come up, so, what's that?
It's here.
I don't know, I don't know if you want to address this, or I think the town manager can address this outside
You
of
want
it.
to address your complaint?
Hi, my name is Savannah Getchus, and Brian and I recently moved to 113 Chapel Shores Drive here in Lyman. I'm here to read on behalf his email that he sent to the town as a formal complaint. It states, I am writing a formal complaint against Dave Dulong. Since day one of buying my new property 10 weeks ago, I have been nothing but bullied and harassed by Mr. Dulong. He has tried to tell me what I can and cannot do with my home and my ADU unit. At first, he said I couldn't have a deck, which he stated the reason was because it's not supposed to be there. He then continued to go into details on how the deck was never approved. And I told him, And I told him it did not matter what he had to say, and I will deal with the town about what I can and cannot do. Mr. Dulong then started asking about my plans with my ADU and what I planned on doing with it. I then explained it needed some work, but I planned to rent it. He then told me I can't rent the house and continued that I shouldn't even have the ADU house at this point. I told him once again, I will do what I want within my legal rights. Since that day, he has done nothing but sneak into my yard and snoop around. He is always hiding in my bushes and making my guests and their kids feel uncomfortable. It has gotten to the point where I've told him to stay off my property and to just leave me alone. He has been taking pictures and even had one of his guests come over to my property to keep his harassment up. Now, I've been asking myself, who does this guy think he is, telling what I can and cannot do? Just bully me and my family? I then started asking around and found out he is an elected official for the town. I have also found out that he is putting in a proposal to change the ordinance to my ADU unit. I feel this is directed towards me and my property, which he has already stated that I cannot rent it. I feel this is another way of Mr. Dulong's harassment towards me. This is not a good look for the town of Lyman. I would like to know how many complaints this man has had against him, if any. Please let me know what the board plans on doing to put a stop to Mr. Dulong's harassment. Is this how the town of Lyman represents itself to the taxpayers of this town? Thank you.
I think so. So Lindsay takes you. I think you follow up right outside of this.
Yeah, so
Can
I
go back
guess
and forth.
for some of the questions in the letter, I can follow up kind of like a FOA request, which is Freedom of Access Act. And I can look into if there are any complaints on record and get back to you. I think the other question is, what does the board plan to do? There's not a whole lot we can do when it comes to a civil issue between neighbors. But as far as committee members and stuff like that, we do have on our agenda to look at a process to, vet committee members, onto committees, and then maybe further that process down the road, like some responsibilities for committee members. We're also updating our personnel policy and stuff like that, which, we'll probably cover like code of conduct and code of ethics and things of that sort. So it'll be a little bit of time while we put together all these new things, but we are trying to work on a process that, going forward, we can address, concerns and such like that. I hope that helps.
Yes, I have to follow up about if there are any.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
I'm sitting here, and if I had put myself in your shoes, if I was in that situation, I think I would make a civil complaint and possibly file a cease and desist order. But I feel like at this time, your best bet is to take care of it as a civil matter. Not trying to get at anything, but we really, he's elected by the people. We don't, just like we are. What are we gonna do?
Right.
But that's what I would do in this case, and more things that I wouldn't say, but.
I apologize. My first meeting, I live on Deer Hill Road. With a complaint like that, is anybody else able to address after she speaks for something like that? What is the town rules, the charter rules about a follow-up? Because you talk about there's not much you can do, but my thoughts are there is. Because he is an elected official, there should be something that our town has that states when you have a civil matter,
That's why
with
we're
somebody
here.
elected,
We're trying to be
there
civil.
needs to, exactly, there needs to be
Cool.
some sort of protocol that states this is what can happen, you can be recalled. And I apologize, my name's Jessica Donovan, by the way. I have a question about that because part of your answer was great,
Well-
but the last part made no sense.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know, sitting here right now, I have nothing in front of me that's telling me what
Right.
proper procedure is, and so I can't answer it if I don't know it.
So the town does not have a proper procedure?
I don't know. I just got on the board a
I'm just
month ago.
asking. No,
I'm
it's
telling
okay.
you, you're directing it at me, I'm
Yeah. Well,
answering you.
I apologize, it was.
It's fine.
What you were talking about, so I'm new to this as well, and I apologize, I did not mean to say your thunder.
Thank you.
It was just, I was just trying to learn, like, I don't know what the charter says, because the old one's 2022. Is that the one that we voted in?
Yes,
Okay, so that's the one out there I can grab? I
Correct.
apologize for interrupting.
it's fine. You're fine.
Okay.
There is a recall, so you can do a citizen's petition to recall. You'd have to collect 10% of the registered voters from the last gubernatorial, and I don't know the number, I would think it's a few hundred signatures of Lyman voters, but you'd start with like the town clerk and do a citizen's petition to recall. So, yeah, if you do have questions about that, feel free to call me or call the office, and we can try to help walk you through it and show you where the charter is.
Makes sense. Yeah, we took, I'll say Brian, but that kind of at the beginning during public input, but go ahead, Brian.
Can I make a response to this complaint?
What's that?
Not to him.
I think you need to be on the agenda to be able to talk.
Complain about my family. That's on the agenda.
What do you think, Linz?
This is something that I guess we haven't really crossed this bridge, and I think the board's trying to stay, neutral to civil disputes. It's really up to you guys,
It's
but
up to the chair. The chair runs the meeting. I support the chair and whatever he decides.
Brian, speak, because I don't want to be ever said that we aren't transparent, that we're not open.
Brian Dulong, 105 Chapel Shores Road. This complaint's about my father. It's interesting, they say from day one he's been out to get them. I'm pretty sure he gave them a section of dock that they asked for. And this about a guest of ours that went over to their house. That was a neighbor about 4 or 5 doors down. He came over to our place because he knew us, and he went to his house to explain to him that playing your music, ear bleeding loud at late hours of the night wasn't a nice thing to do. So he had a complaint with him. He went to him and made that complaint to him. That was nothing to do with us, except that we know the man. Politics are getting pretty dirty in this town, and it started about 3 years ago. The people of Lyman need to think about that.
Let's move on. That's
Yep.
nowhere. All right, item 3, minutes. Let's review and approve meeting minutes for 6/30/2023.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the June 30th meeting.
I will second that motion.
Do you have any discussion?
Maybe. I'm trying to find what I was wanted to refer to. I have a problem with the last sentence. I believe it should be stricken from the record, because this is another case of an elected official stood up and went to the microphone and said something that I believe could be considered slander. And I don't want to put the town's fanny out in the breeze to hand somebody grounds to be able to say, you defamed me, you did this, you did whatever. It was, the former town clerk was let go for a budget cut. And I think that had I been chair, I would have gavelled that down. And I don't know what you think about it, but I would make a motion to strike that. That's my opinion.
Any other thoughts?
It's conjecture.
I guess my only thought on that is the minutes are just a reflection of what was said. It's not agreeing with what was said. And that's what I had said when Tom brought up the misinformation that was shared about the funding of the snowmobile trails. That was in the minutes, I think.
Which that wasn't either. That was spoken from.
But again, so that was spoken, so it wasn't a matter of us agreeing or disagreeing with what was said. The minutes are reflecting what's said. So that's all I'm saying.
My point is
I
that she's
understand.
also elected, and just think that's really leaving the town in a bad spot. And I'm looking out for that. Has nothing to do with the situation.
I get it.
Well, motion's been made as it is, so any more discussion? Do we all in favor of accepting as is? I agree.
Nay.
Nay. Thank you, Vic. All right, item B, review and approve meeting minutes for 7/3/2023.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from Monday, July 3rd meeting.
Second.
Before you move on, I do want to just point out, in those minutes and at the last meeting, there was a motion to attach some statements to your minutes. I didn't attach them because I just kind of felt like if you guys are going to attach things to your minutes, then you have to own it. It's just like anybody making a statement and then submitting it to the board. I don't feel we should be like attaching it in there. It's one thing if they want to, go up to the podium and see what they say. It's all on YouTube. It's out there. If people submit a complaint, it's in the agenda packet. I just don't want us to get in the middle of, somebody makes a statement of something and then it comes back to us.
Well, we made a motion and voted on it
Any other
to be
discussion?
there.
And I can put it in there if you guys want it there. I just want to make it known, like, you gotta own it. So if somebody submits a complaint to the board and says, you know, Sally Susselberger is stealing money from the transfer station, that's a statement of fact. And if Sally decides to sue that person for slander and defamation, and you guys put it in your minutes, you're also slandering and defaming that person, because they made a statement of fact that they stole money, and as it turned out, they didn't steal money. And I'm just using that as like a theoretical, like hypothetical scenario. So I'd just be really cautious of that. People are gonna kind of say, this person, you know, accusing this person of this, you know,
So-
to make it defamation and slander, it has to be a statement of fact. And then if it's found out later to be untrue, it's defamation and slander. So you guys can own it. It'll be, you know, if that's what you want it in the minutes. You guys did make a motion last
Well,
meeting.
and I'm the one that made the motion.
Mhm.
And based on that information, I probably wouldn't have made the motion, but I wanted people to be able to hear or see what had been said. And since we're talking about that too, one of the reasons I ran for select board, because I've been watched infighting for 2 years from two former select board members. And in this meeting, when this was going on, I felt like it was happening all over again. There was a complaint by Mrs. McDonald that I considered that one was basically why I wanted to have that in there, because she's not one to usually come and complain, or I haven't watched her bicker with people back and forth for 2 years. She thought it was important enough to come here. Her husband thought it was important enough to support her in it. And I could make a motion to rescind that vote. If you want to rescind that vote, whatever you want to do. Given in this light, I didn't think about that so much as I wanted to take that seriously. That was my intent. That wasn't what you just brought up.
And I'm not, yeah, I had thought about it after the fact too, myself, you know, just kind of like, you know, in the moment, not really thinking of it until afterwards. And then, which is why I wanted to up and just have a discussion. And if you guys want to put it in there, I'm happy to put it in there. But
So I hear what you're saying. I don't think including something in the minutes at the request of a resident is necessarily agreeing with what they're saying, right? Because we're not up here voting like, yes, this is accurate and true. We're just saying, oh, somebody has asked for this to be part of the public record.
Right.
Right.
I think it's just, you know, we've been talking about process and
Yeah.
procedure and trying to be consistent. So just, how do we want to go forward, right? You know, if everybody came up and said, put what I wrote in your minutes, you know, then we could do that for everybody.
Is this a sticky spot where, is this something that we could act on, that we wouldn't have to wait until next meeting according to the charter? Is this
Well,
not
yeah,
new
I mean-
business? This is,
They're the meeting minutes, you
Yeah.
know, they're on the agenda and
so based on this information, I would motion that we change our mind on that motion.
So
that
we have,
voted on, that we do not attach it, but it is still part of the record because it's on the video.
Mhm.
And,
right.
but I don't know, this is something I've never run into before, ever. So,
Can we pause for a minute? Because we made a motion
Yes.
and a second to approve
Yeah.
them. So do we vote them down and then modify them?
I think we have to.
or we
I can
just,
rescind my
Okay.
motion, yeah.
I just don't want to get
Yes,
called
I'll
out on
rescind my motion.
process.
Okay, so we're starting back off. So,
it would make a motion to not put those letters, statements into the meeting minutes that we voted for last meeting. Was our grab you? I don't think I could say it again.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion on that? We're all in favor of that?
Aye.
All right. Now,
Now,
now we need a motion to approve 7/3/23 minutes.
I make that motion.
As amended.
Yes, as amended, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion there? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, I didn't know that was gonna be the hard spot. Does that-
All right, moving on. Now, that's funny, payroll warrant number 1, in the amount of $25,682.96.
I thought it was, this number, 26,107.71.
You're on the other.
That was the total.
The reason why there's like two different numbers is employees can buy into the insurance plan for like family members, so they pay for that out of their pocket. So that changes the number. What, you guys have asked this before and I asked Jeanette.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so either number, you can vote on either one, but I've always just put in, that lesser number and
We have
Should have noticed this today.
a motion.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of which one I want to.
I'll make a motion to accept payroll warrant number 1 in the amount of $25,682.96.
May I ask a question? I looked at the payroll warrant and I looked at the budget numbers for the salaries for the positions at the town hall. If you take that payroll warrant figure, my question is that the ongoing gross pay for that position? Or has that been modified? Because if you take the amounts on your sheets and multiply them by 26, we had a number for the town manager, interestingly enough, of $100,755. If you multiply her paycheck, the gross paycheck, it comes out to $116,000.
So
The same
there,
happens
we do-
with the treasurer and for several other positions. So my question, I guess, is, are we going by the budget?
The bottom line number is what we voted on, what was voted in. The bottom line number,
The bottom
which
line?
could be dispersed the way,
well, also, so we do bi-weekly payments and it's like Wednesday to Wednesday. So your bi-weekly fell in your last fiscal year and trickled into this fiscal year. So for some of us who weren't salaried the last fiscal year, was paid a certain amount for that time up until they were salaried. When you're salaried, it's multiplied or divided 26 by 26. So you get paid in like installments, 26 times. That's why the number looks bigger, because we were on
Two different
fiscal
fiscal
years.
years and two different positions
Okay,
for some
that-
people.
That was my question,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Lindsay, is that because of?
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, it's the way the payroll,
did you ever get a
bi-weekly
second?
payroll falling on 2 fiscal years.
That was my-
I'll second that. For 25,682.96.
Yep, okay. Any discussion on the 25,682.96?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on, item B, accounts payable warrant number 57 for the year end 2023 in the amount of $56,278.71.
Make a motion that we approve accounts payable warrant number 57 in the amount of $56,278.71.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. I know Jeanette isn't here. Maybe you know, what is IVS LLC? Second page. Down to the bottom.
It's $100.
Contract services.
Yeah, and
other-
I actually looked it up and now I can't remember what line that was going to.
IBS LLC.
Yeah,
It's for 100.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I could ask Jeanette.
okay. I mean, it's only $100, but I just wondering.
It's good.
You know, we never, so she used to always give me her little thing with all the invoices in it, and we've never looked at it, so I'll see if she'll give me those again.
Okay. And then the other thing I just wanted to clarify, for Thomas Holland, his mileage, his dates are May 16th to May 30th for one, and then May 27th to June 20th. So there's overlap.
Well, all I know is he submits them usually quarterly, I think,
Okay.
not weekly or monthly, but he submits.
I was just like, could there be the possibility of like the 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th of them being paid twice?
Oh, no, if he's not- I wouldn't believe that.
She made these amazing catches on the budget committee too.
Yeah, I can.
I didn't notice. I did not.
Okay.
Maybe like retro or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would seem like if you're 5/16 to 5/30, then the next one should be June 1 to June 20. So if we could check into that,
Hmm.
because,
That is strange. I'm sure it's the way it's written up. So we table these till we. get
I mean,
into
I'm
this?
fine voting to accept it as long as there's not, like,
Yeah,
that
I
we're
think-
sure that there's not there's no crossover
If
there.
there's like a discrepancy, we might be able to contact them and maybe look into making that adjustment, so the next time you submit some mileage, you might have to offset it,
Okay,
That's what I would do.
okay,
talk about
Yeah.
Makes
it.
sense.
Okay, so that's discussion.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Beautiful. All right, moving on to item C, accounts payable warrant number 2 for year end 2024 in the amount of $124,764.10.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, unfinished business, tax acquired properties, prior discussions to formulate a plan, next steps tabled for review.
So Rusty, and my apologies to Nicole, she did ask, and this was back a while ago, she wanted to be on the agenda for the 3rd, couldn't make that one, and she wanted to talk to you guys today about it, and I'd forgotten to put her name on the agenda. But she's one of the folks that's been interested for like 3 years now to buy a tax acquired property, and she's been coming to the board and asking and keeps being told to wait. So she's asked, and, it's my mistake, I forgot to put her name here on the agenda, but she didn't want to ask you guys. What's your plan moving forward, I think, and, where we're at, she's got one property she's interested that abuts her property. And she's here.
I'm no closer to making the decision than I was last time when I asked for more time. That's a lot to digest.
Well, I read through this and I got to there and then I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm reading anymore. So there's a lot of information in here.
Yep.
Very well done.
It was very well done. And
Yeah,
then we
and I
had to
don't
add this in.
want to shortchange that.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to ask for it to be tabled again, one more time.
So everyone knows that I love my workshops. Does it make sense to try to schedule a workshop to like actually be able to talk about this together?
I'd be in
And
favor of
next
that.
I agree.
I wouldn't mind doing that a bit.
I'm gonna make a motion that we schedule a workshop to review all these properties at the same time all together.
I second that.
All right. Discussion, all in favor?
So,
Aye.
When do you want to schedule that?
oh, what's the next question? Stop.
Whatever its calendar looks like.
Just throw something out there at this point.
I have next Tuesday or Wednesday. Thursday looks good, Friday. Maybe just Friday.
27th, are you talking the 27th or the 20th?
Wednesday's the 27th. Yeah, next
Oh,
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday's the 26th.
Are you sure? Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
I could do the Tuesday. Wednesday's out for me.
Yeah,
could
I'd
do
rather not
Tuesday.
do a Wednesday.
I can do
27th
Tuesday.
works best for me. I can't do a Wednesday because I'm,
No, Wednesday's rough for
Only.
all of us. How about Tuesday?
How about that Tuesday?
25th?
yeah, Tuesdays are rough too. I can,
I can do the 27th.
I'd prefer not to do it on a Friday.
yeah, I'm in agreement there.
So how about that Thursday?
27th, does that
Yeah.
work for
I can do
you
that.
guys? Does that work for you, Lindsay?
6?
Yeah, here?
Yes, here. Do you have a time on that?
6 o'clock.
Remember that. All right. Moving on to the next one.
I think so.
This is haunting us forever. Franchise agreement, review draft ordinance, schedule public hearing, discussion from last meeting, item table, waiting for updates from Shelley, update from Tony.
So one of the updates I got from Tony was, he's estimating if we did a franchise fee of like 5%, it would be around $70,000 per year. And I know there was some discussion of if that was over a 10-year period, but he verified it's per year that the town could receive in franchise fees, which may be useful. And then Shelley, we're waiting back for like a mock billing statement, and there was one other thing we had asked from her. So just, I'm still waiting from her.
Just
When I
waiting for
get that
Shelley.
in, I'll get that to you guys. But Tony did help shed some light on the questions we were asking.
You see,
All right, RFPs for ARPA funded projects, Bungnet Ballfield, transfer, Kennebunk, workshop held on July 6th, updates if any.
Let's see, Karen Kane is still reaching out to the bidders to see what they'll
That's
offer for their final bid. I did reach out to the bidders for the transfer station to knock off some of those things we talked about in the workshop and see what they come back with. I'm still, I got back from one, still waiting on the other one. That's the only updates I have, and I think we talked about Bungnet Ball Field, and depending on how much money we will have left over from ARPA, potentially using, well, there's two things. we did set aside a reserve for the transfer station for, I think it was 59,000 is what we have left in it. So we have a couple different options, like if we want some money from ARPA for the concession stand and a bridge and whatever, we may be able to apply some ARPA money for the transfer station and from the transfer station reserve account, and then save a little bit from ARPA for the concession stand. Otherwise, if we don't do that, we'd have to take it out of like the capital improvement fund. So there's a few different ways you can look at it in terms of where you're gonna take the money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that other account.
But if we're still waiting on those,
Yeah, I won't know.
Yeah, we still need the
then we
numbers.
really can't make a firm
Mhm.
decision.
Right.
Here we go again.
I think we're close though.
I think so too. I thought we made good progress
Yeah.
in
I
that
think we're
workshop.
close. I think we're just waiting for contractors now to confirm their numbers.
So we table that for next time too?
Is that a motion?
It's unfinished.
It's- And yeah, I'm in agreement with
kinda-
tabling that, yeah.
Yeah, does by itself.
Okay.
RFPs for architect, engineer, town hall expansion, updates on budget line.
I put this one on here because I keep getting conflicting information that we chose the wrong bidder or something like that. But I guess, so that we did set aside a town hall next phase budget that got voted on. So we do have 50,000 for that. In the last discussion, we thought it was gonna come out of capital improvement, so we're not gonna just use up all our capital improvement. We have another line for it. And I guess we did pick the right bidder, right? You guys are all.
I felt like we were.
So
Yeah.
now just, I had conflicting information that was coming in and I need to clarify that. So I can move ahead and maybe work with him and start scheduling things and get that going, and we do have a line for it, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That off the list, too. All right, moving on to item 6, department and committee reports. Road commissioner. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Tom Roto, the new road commissioner.
Hey,
I've
Tom.
been out this past couple weeks. I've been out different jobs, looking around different places. Few things are undone, want complete, I fixed, changed culvert ends, repaired some sides of roads, ditched some ditches, cleaned them up. Been around looking and see where I'm going next, different places. Looked at a bunch of other things around in the town that's got to be addressed. And I've been just trying my best, do what I can do. That's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else I have going right now other than the work I get started. We get some pavings coming up, different roads. I've been around with Jason, around Dayton, around different roads that we're doing. And everything seems to be going good so far.
Do you feel like you got good information? from Brad that he,
Brad has been 100%. He's been right there for me. I call him once in a while and ask him what's going on about this. He's been good. I've been dealing with different people, different types of people in the town. It's all good. I had no issues. Everybody's been pretty lenient, nice. Everything's been good so far. I mean, and Brad's been great. I mean, he's been over to help, see what I'm doing, how I'm doing, different things that he's left undone.
so you don't feel like
No,
you're
I'm all
left
good.
out
No.
to dry. So that's all,
No, it's all
that's
good. It's all
Okay,
all
cool.
good. Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
all good.
Awesome. Good to hear.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Excuse me, Brenda, you have anything you want to add, Brenda? Okay. Tax clerk, treasurer, town manager? Liz?
The tax clerk has a review approved the certificate of settlement. And that's just,
Bottom of the page.
it just makes her not responsible for paying any undue taxes.
Is this in the packet also?
Yes. Yeah,
So we have to,
it's D, certificate of.
No, I mean, is this in the signature
Yeah,
packet? I
yeah.
didn't know if this was a duplicate. I gotcha.
So the balance due is balance due to the state?
No, this is for the taxes committed. So our property taxes, it looks like it shows how many abatements were granted, supplemental commitments. So I think that's the balance due is what we have to collect for municipal taxes. And this is,
Left over from last fiscal year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
sorry,
Oh, I see it right there.
No, you said that and I was like, no, that's up here.
Excuse me. Okay,
So we just have to vote to accept this.
Yeah, I guess probably, huh?
So I make a motion that we approve the certificate of settlement from the tax collector as submitted.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I also think her report is, the rest of it is very clear as well.
Yeah, she does a nice job with those.
Yep.
There's new cards. All right, moving on. You want to add anything besides?
sure, yeah, I wasn't really sure on a town manager report. A lot of my stuff ends up in your agenda anyways. But, I'll just let you know, I've heard a lot of really, really great feedback about our road commissioner, Tom Proto. People are really pleased with the work that he's doing, and I've been getting a lot of really good feedback about you. So I just want to let everybody know. The ordinance review committee, you know, I've been reaching out to the chair and the vice chair and just trying to help them kind of get, maybe coordinate a little bit more and help them address like a timeline on events for adopting ordinances and whatnot. So just been working with them a little bit. And other than that, I mean, a lot of it is in your agenda.
Awesome.
All right. Just moving on to item 7, new business. Review and approve recruitment and appointment of volunteers interim policy.
So I will point out, it does say in your charter that there's like a hiring process for volunteers and committee members. And the charter just says it's in your personnel policy. And obviously, we're kind of looking at our personnel policies because with the new charter, it's a little outdated. So while we're working on putting that together, this is just an interim policy. And it was a discussion at the last meeting when we were looking over a planning board, having, 4 applicants, 3 seats open, and trying to figure out what's the process going forward. I did watch, some of the committee meetings, and I leaned very heavily towards having input from committees. And then I started leaning away from that because I was seeing a lot of debate in the committee meetings on, well, if the board appoints somebody, we'll just make them, an alternate so they can't vote on anything. And it made me think about, I want volunteers to have a fair, equitable opportunity to participate in their community, no matter who you are. And I don't want anyone, to be treated unfairly. So I don't know the perfect process on how to do that, but I figure, you start somewhere. And, my belief was have a non-biased kind of third-party consultant that's going to perhaps interview that person, get some feedback, and then report it to the board. And ultimately, it'd be up to the board to appoint that person so you could veto the town manager's recommendations. And there's not just, one person's going to decide. It is up to the board ultimately. And, and going through that process too, I think when we're looking at reappointing, like people who want their terms are coming up, I did put in the policy that they would be asked, hey, your term's coming up, do you want to reapply? And I think in fairness, if I were to consider someone who is reapplying for a member seat, I might reach out to the chair of the board and ask them, like, what are your thoughts on this, to get feedback in that regard. When it comes to a new volunteer that may have never volunteered for the town ever, I didn't know how a committee is going to interview them and do that process to give to the board their thoughts and recommendations. And I was concerned about bias. And what would you do in that event if that happened? 'Cause I don't know. So I think with reappointments, I'd be happy to like reach out to the committees and get a feel for, at least from their chair or vice chair, like, their thoughts on that person being reappointed, and bring that recommendation to the board. And then folks that are new, it's just a vetting process to try to get to you guys some recommendations. So do you have any questions on it, or even if you want to change it or alter it,
Would we be able to know the pool of which you chose your recommendations from, or would you just be making a recommendation?
No, so everyone who applies, I treat it like a employment application is, because an employment application is confidential until the person's appointed. So basically what happens, and the way I solicit it, is we have our webpage, join the committee, and it says out there all the information, different committees, and it says, maybe you're not interested in these ones, you're interested in those ones. So to put an applicant in a pool is just like they're kind of waiting on the sidelines for a vacancy to open up where there isn't a vacancy. So that's the only reason why I would have a pool, is if there isn't a vacancy available for a committee that they want to be on. Otherwise, it's really everyone who submits an application, would at least have the opportunity to like express their interest, and I could ask them some interview questions and get a feel for what their skills are, what their qualities are. Yeah.
But I think, just to go back to Vicky's question, that's something that as a board we could say, okay, you're making your recommendation, could we please see the pool of applicants, and
Yeah.
And no,
So like
I
kind
guess.
of like what I do right now, I put everything right in front of
Exactly.
you. I just
Okay.
don't put it in the agenda pack or anything like that, or
Yep.
email it for the sake of confidentiality. But yes, so
Yep.
I would be fine with that. Maybe just kind of like, here's my recommendations, and then here's the pool. You guys can look at it and review it as well. So again, you can kind of toss my recommendation out the window if you want to.
And I like leaning more towards handling it similar to a hiring process, because ultimately they are required to adhere to all the policies of the town, as well as they're covered under our insurance. And there's a lot of pieces that go into play that I don't think.
Yeah, I know we're looking at policies and whatnot, and I've been looking at and reviewing that, and looking at some other towns and stuff. And so they do put policies in place for volunteer committee members. Sometimes I hear once in a while, like, I'm just a volunteer. And, I've talked to some of you guys about like doing a committee handbook, just a guide to help volunteers understand, like, there are state statutes that govern us. There are, charter rules that govern us. And it's not, it's hard to draw the lines and figure all that out.
That would probably be really helpful,
Yeah.
and then there would be cohesion.
Mhm. And as far as bylaws go, I understand that there's bylaws, for some committees and all. It does say in your charter that the bylaws have to be approved by the board, which I'm not sure about the planning board. I know the ORC,
We did.
whatever bylaws they approved last, whatever's on the website is their most current approved bylaws. So until they draft something new and present it to the board, it would be up to you guys to approve bylaws. And maybe as a procedure going forward too, we might have to think about how the bylaws might contradict our personnel policies. We've never run into this before. And that might be something to consider as we're reviewing committee bylaws and stuff like that. Because we don't, again, this is about being fair and equitable to everyone across the board.
Well, and the charter outlines the process for bylaws for committees, and I think the planning board has done incredible diligence on bringing those forward to the board to have the board approve them, and ORC, newly formed, or relatively newly committee, has done the same thing. But I think just historically, we haven't necessarily, as long as I've been on the board, we haven't been like, hey, where's your bylaws? We're ready to approve those.
Yeah.
So I think this just is a step in the right direction. Yeah.
Yes, I need to.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Fair to say running the town is kind of like running a business for the people. It's just just a concern I had. I don't know of many businesses that take apprentices and make them running the company before they learn the ropes. Just my
I make a motion that we approve the interim policy for recruiting and appointing committee applications.
You're a second.
I second it for discussion.
Yep.
So we have had complaints about elected officials. Do we want to put something in here on how complaints will be handled if we should get them for volunteers?
I didn't go too deep into it, because then it starts getting into like deeper into personnel policies and
Mhm.
procedures. But yes, I think, part of the discussion we've talked about for process is looking at those sorts of things. So it would be looking into stuff like that. We haven't had a lot of like written complaints come in. Obviously, if people come in and they say something to the board 3 years ago, I'd have to look at a video. I'd have to find it. So the written complaints is going to be the easiest way to track that stuff, which I think, hopefully moving forward while we adopt, policies and procedures and committee handbooks and all, like it would address code of conduct and complaints and stuff like that. I certainly don't want to just like punish someone because there's a complaint floating around out there. It
Yeah.
should be something that's like reviewed and sort of maybe investigated or, looked into before it's just like, hey, there's a complaint.
Yes. No, I agree with that completely.
And, yeah,
May I add one thing, which is just a quick, like, maybe a question or comment? So, love the idea, but when it comes, and I like the idea about the written, because verbal stuff is just always gets lost in translation. How is that going, if that's the course y'all want to go, how will that get out to the town? Is that going to be something through the town website, social media? Is there a platform where we can make them written complaints? Because as we all know, look at all of us here, not many people come to these meetings. But if they have that and they can't make it, how can that be addressed to the board?
so we have a complaint form.
Yeah.
Okay, is that on the website?
That's on the website. If you go
I must have
under,
missed it. I must have missed that.
yeah, if you go under downloadable forms,
Okay.
there's all the forms you can download and complaint form is on there. And you always feel free to call our office too, if anyone has any questions and you're not sure, like how to handle something. Anyone in this office would be happy to help anybody.
And so just for sake of discussion, my motion to approve it is because it's interim and it's a starting point and it's something that we can revisit as we
That too.
move forward.
Start somewhere.
Because right now there's
There's
not any.
nothing, yeah, we
So,
went through
yeah,
that.
let's,
But when Joe spoke earlier, he spoke about a lot of things. I think I wrote most of them down, some of them. And I'm just curious if this is covered in that also, like some of the things he mentioned, statutes or bylaws for committees.
Yeah, I mean, the bylaws, again, it's gonna be, they're approved by the select board. And it's something, I'm happy to like have the planning board, weigh in on something if that's what their bylaws say. I just wanna be careful that we're being like fair, people aren't being, biased against or, I don't know, like humiliated to any degree, that it's just fair.
Mhm.
I think probably moving forward, because we've never had something like this before, that when we look at bylaws for approval, we have to see if there's a confliction there. And see if that's how that works.
This is all uncharted.
Yeah.
So we have a vote?
Yeah.
Point of order. My apologies, just to clarify this, and we refer to my statements before. By adopting this, what currently we have for Article 2.1, appointments to the board shall be made, that's now null, will be null and void. Null and void also will be 2.5, as was as the board made a decision some time ago. When there is a permanent vacancy on the board, the chair shall request a motion to move the senior alternate to fill the vacancy, and the board shall vote on the same. So the select board took it upon itself to determine who's an alternate and who's not. So that's null and void as well. Just let you know that we'll have to make some adjustments to the bylaws, and I assume the ordinance review committee will have to do the same.
There's an oath sheet, there's a process, and the board, appointed, you guys sign the oath sheet, and then when that person's sworn into oath, it would have to say alternate member or planning board member, right? And that's what you're sworn under oath. Now, I understand like a committee could create bylaws, but that's where there's a confliction there, because now you're sworn under oath as one thing. And I did get, there was a person who came in who said they were doing a reappointment. They said, I was appointed as a regular member, but then the committee made me an alternate, and I don't think they could do that. And I looked at their oath sheet, and they were appointed as a regular member. So sworn under oath, they were a regular voting member. But I guess the committee had said, no, we're going to make you an alternate. So that's going to violate statutes too.
Mhm.
And it's just a conflict. It's something we haven't ever really addressed or looked at.
So is that the thing?
No, that's a different one. Yeah. I just didn't want to like throw names out there.
I'm sorry.
No, I get it.
Yeah, Attorney, just a notion that, obviously, from my experience on the planning board, that someone may not get a fair hearing, not get a fair conversation. And a fair judgment as to whether or not this person be a credit to the operations of the planning board. That it just doesn't happen.
I'm certainly not suggesting that it does. I want to be clear about that.
With the assumption of potential bias out of the 11 years I've been on the board.
I've never heard that word so many times
That never has happened.
as I have tonight.
I'm not trying to say the planning board's biased, but I'm trying to look, 10 years in the future, there could be a whole different board, whole different planning board. And I don't know what would happen. I just want people to feel like they all have the same opportunity. And it's hard getting volunteers. I'm trying to like build on the website a little bit. I think Amber and Michelle are working on trying to get traction. We need volunteers. We have tons of committees with no volunteers on. So, we need to bring in people, and how do you do that? You make a nice space for people that welcome in and
Yes.
welcome them in.
Sort of. Okay. Shall we try to vote on this again?
I think so.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Review and approve resolution to open and manage accounts. This seems like I've done this every year.
We have to, yeah, we do, and then we had, former employees were on it, so we need to get them off of it and get new ones on it. So we just want to make sure that, we adjust it so the right people are on it and how.
It's housekeeping.
Yep.
Remember doing this before?
Motion?
I'm going to make a motion to accept the resolution to open and manage accounts.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I don't have it here, but budget, next up, item C, budget committee member resignation, vote and accept resignation of John Tibbetts.
I don't have that.
Don't have
Sometimes there's
actually,
no thing in there.
Yep.
Right.
We read it into the minutes.
Yep.
The last meeting.
Okay.
So now
Now
we
we're
just
just-
gotta vote,
We're just formally voting.
make it official.
Well, we weren't supposed to say his name anymore, so how do we do that? Make a motion? According to the letter, I think.
Well, he's still under oath until you accept his resignation, so.
I make a motion, we accept Mr. John Tibbetts' resignation that was read into the record last meeting.
I second that motion.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up, approve shortened nomination process for one budget committee member, 3-year term.
So this is just for that one term. Nomination deadline is the same, which is July 28th. And then now we'll have 4 seats on the ballot come September.
And that still lines up with that same meeting date.
Yes.
Perfect.
I make a motion to accept the short nomination process for the one budget committee member.
I second that.
Under discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Makes sense.
Oh, sorry.
Moving on. Need to accept the resignation of the Register of Voters, Shirley Harrison.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
These are all. Appointment for Register of Voters. I don't have an F. I don't have any.
So I would be okay taking that slot until anything else changes. I have past experience being a registrar of voters and I've done the elections training. I already have access to CBR and all that, so it would just be to fill the end of the term or until we decide to get someone else.
When's the end of that term, Lindsay?
2 years.
2024,
24.
December 2024.
Oh, I thought it was 2 more years.
I make a motion to appoint Lindsay as the registrar of voters until the end of that term.
I'd just like to voice an opinion here. We used to have 4 people doing the job that Lindsay is doing. And we added a town manager. Why are we giving her another position in the town? This is nothing against
Can you
you,
point of order?
but
Staff?
we need to have diversity in this town hall. For somebody who runs the town hall, who manages the town hall, who manages the employees, who does all the jobs as clerk, and now who does all the jobs as registrar. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But that's my opinion,
Thank you.
and I think we should be putting this out for a different person, other than town manager, town clerk, select board clerk, whatever else has been assigned to Lindsay's
It's not
position.
5 minutes.
You second.
It's not.
Can you,
Yeah, I know, we're,
Can you?
yeah, we're moving on. Tim, do you have a second on that?
I'll second that for discussion. Are we able, so if we appoint, this is a procedural question because I truly do not know. We appoint today, right? For the sake of having somebody in that position, that doesn't stop us from still seeking someone.
You
To
can
fill that role?
absolutely seek someone. The other thing too is.
We have to have somebody currently.
Deputies, like,
Yeah, I don't need to justify all the things that you do because I know we have people that are deputies and I'm happy to have conversations with people if they want to ask questions. I just want to be clear that if we appoint somebody to this role today so that we have somebody to fulfill that function of our business, that we could still seek out somebody else to do that, to take
Right.
that out
And
off.
part of the discussions we've had like earlier when we were looking at like salaries and budgets and stuff was how we deputize in-house. Because your town manager, town clerk, registrar of voters is not going to be doing all those tasks by themselves. I've already deputized my deputy clerk and I'll be deputizing a deputy voter or registrars. And they'll have access to everything that I have access. And so we can work together as a team and do that.
Correct.
And then, while we're also filling a vacant position, that person will be deputized. So we have deputy treasurers, deputy tax clerks, deputy town clerks, and that's how it functions. It's not always just one person doing all that work.
Correct. Okay. That's my
You feel like
discussion.
you're gonna not have any problem fulfilling the duty, adding this duty to your,
No, because as town clerks, I already have access to like voter reg and CVR and everything like that. And, right, I'd be utilizing my deputy. So us would be working together. And it's not adding anything, because if we didn't have a register of voters, then your town clerk would be doing it. All these, somebody's gonna put the voter registrations into the database and, print off incoming voter lists and do absentee ballots and whatnot, so. Which I'm already doing.
I just don't, I wouldn't want you to be overwhelmed by too much either.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Yeah, and we're still.
So that's why I'm asking, I
We're
don't,
still looking for a front counter person, So, that person, when we had Holly, she was like a floater and she floated around all the different departments.
Right.
So,
There's no need for
All right,
any
any
counter.
discussion? We're done
Is
discussing?
that what you just said?
I'm done.
no, I said we're looking for one.
Oh.
Yeah.
All in favor?
You're speaking.
Aye.
Well, this is for you too.
Did you get that, Linz?
Yes.
thank you.
Moving on to G, Bunganut YMCA request for maintenance on the road to the Pines.
So YMCA contacted me, they said the road that goes down to the Pines is like washed out because all the rain and it's a very low area. Our road commissioner went out, he took a look at it and he said roughly like you're looking at maybe $3,000, just to go smooth it out. There's one little section that needs some work on it. So just want to put it to the board. It would have to come out of capital improvement funds. 3,000 is a rough estimate and, just want to, if you guys are okay with that, I can work with the road commissioner on getting that together. We do have porta potties down there and a dumpster. So, part of the reason why it's become an issue is that trucks have to get down there to get those things. And right now it's all redded out and,
And the Y rents that out for revenue generation as well, correct?
yeah, that's where our
Yeah.
pine, it goes down to the Pines.
Yep.
How bad is it, Tom?
Well, I don't know what's underneath of it, underneath the gravel they put there, if they rubbed it out and cleaned out all the organics off in it before they did it. So it's all mud. People have been driving off, there's a dirt road down, people have been driving off the grass, and just, if one goes, the other one goes, and it makes a mess, and they bring that back onto the gravel that's there, so then it gets all soft. I mean, we've had some serious rain, doesn't matter where it is, but I mean, if people drive on the road, path that's there, I mean, it's probably 14, 15 feet wide. If they drive on it, it would be a lot better, but they do have to get down and turn.
Would you be able to do it quickly?
Yeah, I
Ish.
can get it done, but like I say, basically that area there, when we take that area and clean it up, I mean, you can only do so much. I mean, you can take what's there, smoothen it out, add gravel to it. I don't know what's underneath, so I can't say it's gonna be 100% fixed, it's gonna work. I don't know for how long, because I don't know what's under it. So without getting into it and rubbing it out all the way down to where it's gotta be and spending dollars, I could say $3,000, put a Band-Aid on it to make it get through. And I mean, and see, make sure, because the beginning of the road is good. As you get down further, it starts getting soft. I mean, water's lying there, there's no way to ditch that.
Yeah, there's
The
nowhere for it
water's
to
lying
go.
right there, it's a low area, the water stays there all the time, so it's staying underneath. So if they never put fabric or did anything the right way, if somebody just made a little road through.
It's abnormally high, the water table through
Yeah,
too,
the
so.
water table's right there, so it's in the water. So I mean, you can patch it up, but is it gonna last forever? Probably.
Could we patch it up enough to get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
septic
yeah.
trucks and the stuff for the rest of
Yeah,
this summer?
yeah, stone, heavy gravel, good gravel, inch and a half, something like that, put it in there with a lot of stone in it. And put it down, but people still have to stay on the, I mean, nothing anybody can do about it, there's no police over there, so.
Can we stake it off?
Fix it up.
Crime scene tape?
Yeah. okay.
Come have your family event here.
But yeah, I mean, it would work, it would put a Band-Aid on it, I mean,
Well, I mean, we gotta fix it, don't we?
Yeah.
What do we do, close it? close Bunganut for the rest of the summer? I mean,
It's the road just to that section, right?
But Bunganut also down by, you get the red shed, where you only pay for the,
Mm-hmm.
goes down the stairs. That one there's got some washout spots in it, but it's passable. But it's got some serious erosion over there.
Yep.
But the other road is at the end where it curves. They've been going off, say if there's a car park, people just park wherever they want anyways. So if the guy parks on the road a little bit, there's no room for somebody to go around it, so they go around it, they get stuck, they run it all up, bring the mud onto the gravel, make a mess. So therefore, it's gotta be fixed.
needs to stop raining.
Yeah.
Make a motion, it stops raining. What do you wanna do?
I think we have to.
I
and
think it needs to be
abandonment's
fixed,
okay,
it's even
'cause
just a Band-Aid repair for now.
I believe that, I mean, that's hopefully the final, what the Bunganut committee is looking at all that. So why put too much
So-
into something that
Mm-hmm.
might change? So Band-Aid might be the best.
I think so for now, I mean,
And
Agree.
if it takes less gravel, it's less.
That's less, right? Yeah.
It's not a,
Is
it's
that-
not
is that-
really that big of a.
is that within our, that monetary amount is within our authority to not get competing bids and
Right,
whatnot?
yeah, it's under 5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say fix it. That's a motion for 3,000 or less, however it works out. That if Tom has time to do it, that we just have him do it.
I second that motion.
All right. Any discussion?
My only discussion, like we talked about at the workshop, is that we be thinking about the capital fund. And because we throw it around, capital fund, would you be able to send us out information on the balance of the capital fund? What's encumbered, if anything, on that
Mm.
capital fund? And then we can hopefully start talking about how is, like, I don't know, how is that replenished annually and what, having an actual plan for that fund?
Yeah, and the only reason why I say that's come out of capital improvement fund, because I've already asked Jeanette, are
Correct.
there any other lines?
Yeah.
And there aren't. So,
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just think it's been used more of like an emergency fund than what I would think a capital fund is. That's all. So I
I
just want to
agree.
be in front of it.
So
Sorry, that was my discussion.
you were the second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Town Hall Expansion Committee discuss reinstating as an ad hoc committee.
So whoever was on the town hall expansion committee before, your terms are up June 30th, 2023. I think we have in our charter like a buildings and grounds committee, that's a standing committee. So we could either kind of try to grow on the buildings and grounds committee and kind of put some of this town hall expansion thing onto that committee, or we can make an ad hoc committee specifically for town hall expansion. It's up to you guys.
Is that
Oh,
buildings and grounds maintenance committee? Did I say it right? It wasn't that name when I was on the board before, so I think I almost said it wrong, but, is that it's a standing committee, so is that full? Are there
That's a standing committee.
plenty of members on it? Are they
There's no
active?
it is.
There is not
Yeah,
one
there
yet.
isn't
We,
one yet.
we put it into the new charter, so there is not currently one of
Okay.
those.
That was,
But maybe some of the prior town hall expansion committee members want to be on the building and grounds committee. I don't know.
Maybe. I see you looking at the ceiling over there.
What do you guys, I think that's just another committee. Why not have one committee, building grounds and
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I
Because
agree with
committees
that,
are
yeah.
one,
We first started the building committee, building and grounds committee, I was on it. That was when I first got involved volunteering.
Mm.
And we were assessed with going around and to all the town properties and seeing what kind of shape they were in and stuff. And that's how it started. And then it turned into the cousin school project eventually, but, I'm not against, why wouldn't that, we had to look at the town hall about expansion then. We gave a report on then. So I'd be in favor of doing that, including that in this. Just merging them together, I mean, makes sense, doesn't it?
Mhm. So you'll put out something saying, hey, Buildings and Grounds Committee, do we develop the charge? Does the town, how does?
No,
we
so
put the
the
charge
town
together?
manager does like a project statement, like I did with
Correct.
IT committee and Butternut Park committee.
Yep.
And then I'm updating the website too to include those committees, so they'll have a page and kind of put some information out there. And then Michelle and Amber can help me get.
If it ever stops raining on the weekends,
Yeah.
I don't like to get wet in the rain, so
Okay.
I
But I think that's a good idea. Like
And
buildings
then-
and grounds.
The people that were on the last committee would be, like, you could reach out to them and say, hey. wanna be on
Well,
this
both of them,
committee.
was there a town hall expansion committee already?
Right,
There
that's-
was
Yeah.
the last year.
Because
Last year was
that
the-
would be more cohesive to know
Right.
where things came from and how it, what the plan is. I'd like to see that.
agree. Okay, so we don't have to do anything with that one, right?
I feel like I can't talk today.
No, I guess there's nothing to do with that.
You
one.
are, though.
Committee applications received, comprehension plan, 3 applicants.
Before we do anything with any of these,
Yep.
since we just approved a process, should we go through that process
think it makes
with all
sense.
these? Done.
Checking things off the board.
The only question I have is the ordinance review committee, just because they have stated at their last meeting that they need a lot of help. They have a lot of work on their plate. So they're currently at 7 members. The charter doesn't say how many members they need to be.
But as
The
Joe
bylaws
mentioned, the
say
bylaws,
5 members, but they're at 7, so
at least 5, right? Say
at
it.
least, okay, at
Correct.
least 5. Yeah, so I mean, the input that I received from their last meeting was that they need help. And if, I mean, you're the liaison, and I think we've been going a little bit back and forth with the chair and the vice chair, and so
Mhm.
it's up to you guys.
I think we
Want to
should,
expand that.
yeah. I think it's worth at least going through that process for those.
Okay.
We meet Thursday, so we talk about it then too. Get a better grip on it. Admittedly, I wasn't at the last meeting because we had our workshop, so.
Excuse me.
So does that mean we're tabling all the committee applications?
We're done.
I think so.
Is there an other? Anybody else have any?
I have another. I do. I was, took a walk around this building, noticed some things, being a landscaper, and I'm not sure if it's in it. You know, I know we have a contract for maintenance on this piece of property that we're sitting on right now. There's a whole lot of things growing in the beds that shouldn't be. There's bittersweet growing up the building. It's all underneath the siding in the back corner. There's sumac growing in places it shouldn't be. Can we get that rectified? It looks like doo-doo, number one, and number two, it's not good to have that stuff growing under the siding, and just because we may expand the town hall doesn't mean we should stop taking care of it.
So in the contract, there's a scope of work, and it doesn't necessarily detail like some of those pruning and weeding and stuff like that, but we can always talk to the contractor, and I'm sure he'd be open to it. We can reach out to him and ask him if he help us with that.
And I think next time it should be included in the scope of work.
Yeah.
I've touched base with Billy just a couple different times, and he's talked about that sumac out back that he'd love to take it down.
Oh, yeah,
So
and then
I'm
there's
sure he'd do
poison
it.
ivy over at Chadbourne and stuff,
Yeah.
so.
That's been an ongoing issue for 15 years.
We budgeted for that,
Yeah, we did.
right? Yeah, okay. Do we, who schedules that? Like,
Myself.
yeah, okay. I just don't want to lose sight of it, that's all. People over there for music in the park,
I was
and I
gonna
don't
say,
want
maybe not on
anyone
a
leaving with
Thursday
poison
night.
ivy or
Oh, yeah.
stay out of the bushes, Joe.
He's not over there on Thursday. All right, we start signing.
Is
Yeah.
there a, does anybody have anything else? Any other?
The other.
I don't have any other today.
I have premium dark chocolate sea salt caramel. Anybody wants any?
I'll have a piece.
Okay, I got one open already over here.
I'll vouch for it.
I'm running it down to you. I said, if you put 3 women on this board, we're gonna have chocolate. We're gonna have chocolate. Anybody in the audience is free to have some as well. Dark chocolate should be its own food group, in my opinion. Oh wait, it is.
Good.
Alright, so
I don't know.
Should
Are
be.
those the ones from Market Basket?
It is. They're pretty
Those
good.
are pretty good.
They're cheap too. They're not like an arm and a leg.
We got a lot of stuff to sign today, don't we?
There's a start.
All right.
this one, that's her.
Yeah.
These ones were not.
Those are committees.
Yep.
Sitting away from your wife.
One last one.
You do all day, I'm down right time.
I think she.
No, not yet.
Is this, Amber, is this the stuff that you sent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to read on my phone.
Yeah.
Here we go. We're gaining.
Yeah, we are.
I love it because you can write it real big and then all of a sudden you get this one small line.
One last one. That was a straggler. Sorry.
So to run these down to Amber.
Mm-hmm.
Run.
I don't know that you need to
Are you running?
You can pass them to her.
Oh, no, hey. I got another one. I stashed that in the fridge last meeting. We didn't get into it.
Like 2 meetings ago, I think. It's been a little bit.
Another vehicle here.
Oh,
My son just like basically kicked me out of the car on the way by. Get out.
is he coming back for
Oh
you?
my God. I called my wife. I'm like, hey, do you mind picking me up? So I'm hoping she'll pick
You're
me
not
up.
gonna
Either that or I'll be
walk?
walking halfway
Oh
home.
my
I'll give you a ride.
You on your bike?
Yeah.
All right. No, she's up there. She's a good girl.
I'll make you scream.
Probably.
I feel like this conversation is going, like, we're still on. So let's just
Yeah.
sign, Amber. Come on.
I'm going as fast as
It's all
I can.
good.
My name is never in
No,
the
I
same
just meant
place
for the
twice,
conversation,
so I
it
have
was
to
just
look
funny.
for it.
We're just being, we're just
Human
fellowshipping.
beings.
Yeah, that's so much to absorb.
I know. Actually, it was in the back seat of my car, and Maddie she's been practicing her reading all summer, and she started reading the words. She's like, "What is this, Mama?"
I think they did a great job on it.
She did, yeah.
I want to give it due diligence, and
I know. I feel bad for
apologize that
Nicole.
I
I
just
feel
started.
bad.
Just started a month ago, and I didn't.
No, I don't think you.
We didn't have it till 2 weeks
I
ago.
understand Nicole's frustration. That's why I just feel bad because
Yeah.
she's been coming for
I get it.
like 3 years.
It's like the
Get a motion?
Oscar Littlefield Road.
That's done.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? All right, we're out of here.
Aye.
You were what now? Perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's all.
We should get
What's that?